Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sudden Impact. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about all of the wrestlers that TNA has helped rebuild their career. So like after they've been released from WWE, of course. So basically, TNA is long been considered as the retirement home for ex-WWE stars to get a decent paycheck and just basically spend their time in Orlando doing whatever, and and occasionally wrestling. But in the 2010s, especially after the company was bought by Anthem, uh, they started also signing wrestlers who had recently been released from WWE, because at that point in time AEW hadn't begun even. So so some of the guys that rebuilt their career in TNA were like the main one. Like the first one I'm going with is Drew Galloway, or he's known in WWE, Drew McIntyre. So when he was released by WWE in 2016, he was not in a good place, and he basically, his last wrestling thing that he did with WWE was be a part of the mid card stable 3MB alongside Jinder Mahal and Heath Slater, who I'll get to later. And basically, yeah, Drew McIntyre was released alongside Heath Slater and Jinder Mahal. So TNA took a chance on Drew Galloway and signed him, and had him debut at the UK, one of the UK tours. I'm not sure exactly where he debuted, whether he was in England or Scotland, where they were going, where they were holding one of their European tapings of Impact at the time. But yeah, Drew appeared for TNA, and the crowd went absolutely wild because, hey, it's Drew McIntyre, a homegrown guy, or who was kicked out of WWE rather unfairly. He's getting his chance in TNA. And yeah, they did a lot of work to reestablish Drew McIntyre as a legitimate character. I mean, they had him, gave him a few beginning feuds to just see what the fan reaction would be to him initially, by putting him in a faction with Eli Drake and Micah, who's now goes by Tangaloa. And they were the first feud that those guys had was going up against MVP's group of the Beatdown Clan, with Samoa Joe, Low Key, Kenny King, and yeah, a few others. I can't remember all of them, but yeah, it was. And basically, yeah, it was okay. That feud served the purpose, as it was to get those Drew, Eli Drake, and Micah known to the the TNA wrestling fans at the time. We could all see that Drew was going to be the one to come out of that story, like that feud, and go on to have a fairly decent singles run in TNA, because people knew who he was from his time in WWE, and TNA had pretty much signed him with the basically looking to build him as that monster, or like build him into a main eventer and world champion, which he would later go on to become in TNA. And yeah, he basically tore down the house as TNA World Heavyweight Champion. He was the wrestler who was putting TNA on his back each time he went and wrestled for like around the world in other companies. So each time he went and wrestled for another company or even in another country, he was representing TNA, because TNA was allowing him to have compete in matches where he would defend the TNA World Heavyweight Championship most of the time. And basically, yeah, he put TNA back on the map, and basically rebuilt his career up, and basically to the point where WWE were going, okay, all right, we see what you're doing there. We see you, Drew. How about you come back to us now? And they offered him a lot of money to. So another guy who had to rehab his career after being released from WWE was Colin Cassidy, or W. Morrissey, or Big Bill as he's known now in AEW. So basically at the end of 2017, 2018, this was like a couple of months after Big Cass and Enzo Amore had been split up in WWE, which was the worst decision ever to do. But yeah, it's been covered before in other videos by other channels, and basically Colin Cassidy, or Big Cass, was released by WWE, and he spent a little bit of time on the independent scene, and TNA also gave him a shot at and eventually signed him. Sorry, my nose is itching, so it's getting a bit distracting. So TNA signed him, and yeah, he basically became a dominant force in TNA wrestling. I mean, he was working his way up the card in squash matches initially, because he's 7 foot tall and you can't teach that. And he got himself in some pretty good shape to come and when he was in TNA. And basically he was just mowing through the wrestlers that were put in front of him in TNA, and yeah, he was working his way up the card, and he even had a few chances at the World Heavyweight Championship. I think if he had stayed around longer, he would have become TNA World Champion, but eventually AEW came knocking, and yeah, eventually Tony Khan signed him to a contract, which was good, fair play to to Big Cass or W Morrissey as he was known in TNA. But yeah, apart from being tag team champion with Ricky Stark and being involved in that group, the Firm, along with Stokely Hathaway and MJF and a couple of other people who I forget because it was such a badly run and badly booked group. Yeah, he hasn't done much apart from that. I know now that he's moved on to to sit under the learning tree of Chris Jericho, but so hopefully that leads to somewhat of a renaissance again in his career. But when he was in TNA, he was just a monster, and he was just basically had rebuilt his career after his WWE firing. So the next guy that is also had rebuilt his career in TNA after being released by WWE was Jonah, now, or Bronson Reed as he is known in WWE. Now, I know that Jonah or Bronson was unfairly, in my books, released from WWE NXT. I'm not sure if it was part of the budget cuts or what, but the way he was booked in NXT was fantastic. And that mainly comes down to the fact that Triple H saw his athleticism and sheer size and basically thought, yes, I want to make you a champion. And he made him the North American champion in quite dominant fashion. But for some reason, most likely budget cuts, Bronson was released, and he was working for New Japan and TNA at that point in time. So he was splitting his time between New Japan and TNA. To be honest, I didn't see much of his work in New Japan. I knew that he was wrestling in New Japan and that he was tearing down the house in New Japan. I'm not sure if he had won any championships with New Japan while he was with them. And I don't think he even won any championships while he was with TNA. But yeah, it was... But again, he was just booked as a sheer monster, and basically mowing through the wrestlers left, right, and center. Even having a few matches with W Morrissey, which were just like really good matches, because it was just like big meaty men slapping meat or man meat. It was just basically fantastic to see two big wrestlers that could actually wrestle at that point in time do what they did. And yeah, it was fantastic that Jonah was given that opportunity by both New Japan and in North America by TNA to show and rebuild his career basically after his WWE firing or release, basically, and so much so that when Triple H got control over Raw and SmackDown and NXT or whatever, he was one of the first people to re-sign with WWE. So yeah, so basically, yeah, it's basically the repeating pattern of these things happening where wrestlers are released by either not so much AEW, but WWE, and go to TNA to just rebuild their career and develop their career, and just basically get some buzz or generate some buzz around them, so much to the extent where WWE and AEW pay attention to them and say, hey, all right, we'll sign you, or we'll get you back because you whatever you've done in TNA and is just seeming to really rub off well on you, and you've basically rebuilt your career. And I also talked about Heath Slater earlier in the video. I mean, yeah, Heath Slater did get more of an opportunity to show he can be a singles wrestler in TNA, and basically, but he never actually quite reached the same heights as those other wrestlers that I've previously mentioned. I mean, yeah, sure, he was towards, at some point in his TNA run, he was quite over with the crowd, but to the extent, not to the same extent that Drew Galloway or Drew McIntyre and Bronson Reed were, and Big Bill were before they got signed by the other companies. But yeah, but he still was a tag team champion, I think, and involved in some pretty significant storylines and feuds for TNA while he was there, basically. And it's not only the male wrestlers that went and needed some rehab to rehab their career after being released from WWE. So wrestlers like Mickie James, Emma, Deonna Purrazzo, Chelsea Green, even. So all of those wrestlers were released from WWE or WWE NXT, and for various reasons, and went to TNA wrestling and basically rebuilt their career and developed a character which got them noticed again by either WWE or AEW, and they just went off and either to sign with AEW or WWE at those points in time. So it's basically TNA is no longer the retirement home for washed up wrestlers or washed up WWE wrestlers, or even general washed up wrestlers. It's a place where they can go to get like develop their character, refine their character, even like develop a new character, like to get that just get their old wrestling company out of their mind and just focus on doing something different and basically getting back to basics and, you know, basically wrestling. And that's how TNA is able to rehab wrestlers' careers and give rise to like make them new again and get all those wrestlers noticed by AEW and WWE. So basically, that's how I feel that TNA is also a really good company, because they take a chance on WWE wrestlers or even ex-AEW wrestlers that have been released or they've had their contract expire and they have chosen not to re-sign, or the contract wasn't offered, another contract wasn't offered. Basically, yeah. And it's, yeah, so I feel that TNA should get a lot more credit than it deserves. Well, no, so should get a lot more credit than it does, because yeah, without TNA, most of the wrestlers now would not be there in like would not be the wrestlers who they are in WWE and AEW. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to Sudden Impact, and ring the bell for notifications and leave your comments down below. Until next time, guys, thanks for watching.